The twin suns of Zelleria Prime burned bright over the silver dome of the Royal Combat Arena. Inside, the air was cool, clean, and silent, till the clash of energy swords broke the peace. Princess Zelleria stood tall in the center of the arena, her breathing calm, her posture perfect. She wore a dark violet combat suit that shimmered with every movement. Around her, 3 young alien warriors lay flat on the ground, defeated and groaning in pain. They had trained for years. She had trained harder. The nobles in the audience clapped softly, proud of their heir. But Zelleria didn't look at them. Her golden eyes searched for someone else. A man stood by the edge of the arena, behind a transparent force field. He was not like the others. His armor was old, patched in places, the paint chipped away. He wore no royal colors, no symbols of power. His face was weathered, his hair mostly gray. But his eyes, blue, cold, focused, said he had seen more battles than any of them could imagine. He was human, a Terran, a relic from a dying world. Princess Zelleria scoffed and walked toward him. "That's the mighty warrior you always talk about," she said loudly to her training master. "He looks like he can't even lift a blade." The crowd laughed nervously. The human, General Marcus Riker, said nothing. He simply raised one eyebrow, as if unimpressed. "Do you speak, Fossil?" she said, stepping closer. "Or do you only grunt when it's time to run away?" Riker leaned forward slightly, hands behind his back. "Talking is cheap, Princess," he said calmly. "Real strength doesn't need to shout." Zelleria blinked, not used to being spoken to like that. "Are you saying I'm weak?" "I'm saying you haven't been tested." That made her angry. "Test me, then." "No," Riker said simply, and turned to leave. The crowd gasped. Denying the princess was close to treason. "You walk away?" she called after him. "Is that the Terran way? Run from the real fight?" Riker stopped at the door. Without turning, he replied, "The real fight isn't in the arena. It's out there. You're not ready for it." Then he left. Zelleria stood frozen, confused, and offended. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not even her mother. Later that evening, the grand palace of Zelleria Prime glowed under the twin moons. Inside the throne chamber, Empress Valera sat on her crystal seat, tall and graceful. Her skin shimmered with the silver hue of her race, her long white hair flowing down like starlight. She was beautiful, powerful, and feared across the galaxy. "Princess." Zelleria entered, still in her combat suit, her face red with frustration. "Mother," she said, "why is the Terran warrior still here?" "He is rude, disrespectful. He makes jokes about me in front of others." Empress Valera looked at her daughter carefully. "What did he say?" "He said I'm not ready for real battles, that I only know the arena." "Is he wrong?" Mouth opened, then closed. "I defeated 3 warriors today. In a royal training hall," the Empress said calmly. "Not in war, not in death. But he insulted me." Valera stood and walked slowly toward her daughter. "You don't know him," she said softly. "You judge him by his armor, his age, his species." "He's a Terran," Zelleria said with a frown. "They lost the war. They lost Earth. Their kind is finished." The Empress stopped walking. Her eyes turned sharp. "Do not ever say that again." Zelleria took a step back. She had never heard that tone from her mother before. Empress Valera looked out the window at the stars. Terrans did not lose because they were weak. They lost because they were alone. And even then, they made us bleed. One man just once stopped our fleets from reaching Andromeda. That man was Marcus Riker. He's just human, Zelleria said quietly. Valera turned to her, her voice full of quiet emotion. "Yes, and he is also your father." Silence filled the chamber. Zelleria's eyes went wide. "What?" The Empress nodded. "I met him during the last war. I was still a commander then, not Empress. He was a general leading Earth's final defense. I was ordered to crush him. Instead, he saved my life. More than once." Zelleria stepped back again, as if she had been punched. "You're lying. I've never lied to you." "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because the galaxy was not ready. You were not ready." The princess was shaking now. "I mocked him. I insulted him. He knew who you were," Valera said gently. He asked me not to tell you. He wanted you to find your strength. On your own? Tears stung Zelaria's eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Why would he do that? Why would he hide? 'Cause true warriors don't need credit, her mother said. They need peace. And he gave me peace, even when his world was burning. That night, Princess Zelaria couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at a small holo photo she had stolen from the palace archive. It showed a younger, Marcus Riker, standing next to a young Valera in her military uniform. They were smiling. They looked ... happy. Her heart was full of questions. What was he like back then? Did he ever think of her? Did he love her mother? Did he ever wish he could raise her? She closed her eyes and remembered his words. Real strength doesn't need to shout. Now she knew why he didn't fight her in the arena. He wasn't avoiding her because he feared her. He was protecting her. He was her father. The next morning, Zelaria stood outside the old training chamber where Riker usually trained alone. She watched through the transparent wall. He moved slowly, practicing human combat styles. Nothing flashy, nothing elegant, just pure, efficient movement. She stepped inside. He didn't stop. If you've come to throw more insults, you're late. I didn't know, she said softly. He stopped, lowered his fists, turned. I didn't know who you were, she said again. I made a fool of myself. You're not the first. I mocked you, she whispered, and she looked down. You knew all this time. He gave a small nod. Why didn't you say anything? Riker walked over to the bench and sat down. 'Cause I didn't want you to see me as your father. Not until you saw me as a man. Zelaria walked closer. But you are my father. Yes, he said, but titles don't matter. Actions do. There was silence for a while. Then she said, Can you train me? Riker looked at her with those same cold, calm eyes. Training means pain. No royal guards. No soft landings. I want the truth, she said, not comfort. Riker stood and walked to the center of the room. And then let's begin. And so, in a small room far from the glory of the arena, the princess and the warrior faced each other, not as strangers, not as enemies, but as blood. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but something had changed. A new legacy was being born, one that came not from conquest, but from connection. For the first time in her life, Princess Zelaria woke up sore. Her arms hurt, her legs burned. Her back felt like it had been hit by a spaceship. And yet, she smiled every morning for the past 2 weeks. She had trained with Marcus Riker, general of the Lost Terran armies, warrior of legend, and her father. He didn't go easy on her. He didn't care that she was royalty. He pushed her harder than any trainer ever had. He made her run until she nearly collapsed, made her fight until her hands bled, made her think like a soldier, not a spoiled princess, and he never called her daughter. That word still sat like a weight in her chest. She didn't know if he was waiting for the right moment or if he simply didn't want to say it in the great palace chamber. Empress Valera stood alone, looking out at the stars through the tall window. The galaxy seemed peaceful, but she knew it was a lie. She held a small device in her hand. It was old, shaped like a flat stone, but inside was a message. She pressed the button. Riker's voice came out, quiet and steady. If you get this, it means I made it. Earth's gone. They burned it, but I stopped them from taking Andromeda. I bought you time. Use it and raise her. Raise her to be better than both of us. Valera closed her eyes. She had listened to that message 1,000 times. Back then, she had been a commander, loyal to the Zelari warlords. Riker had been her enemy. But war does strange things. She had respected him, then admired him, then loved him. They had shared. One stolen night during a ceasefire, she never told her superiors. She never told Riker she was pregnant either. Before she could, Earth fell, and he disappeared into the stars. Years later, she became Empress. She kept the secret for the safety of her child. But the child was not a child anymore. In the combat hall, Riker threw a wooden staff towards Zelaria today. Reflexes, he said. She caught it barely. You're not going to take it easy on me? She asked with a smirk. I never have. He attacked first fast and hard. She blocked, barely holding her ground. I don't understand you, she said, grunting as she parried. You fought my people, you killed Zalari's soldiers. Then you saved my mother. Why? He struck again. Because not all enemies are evil. Some are just lost. She stepped back, breathing hard. Do you regret loving her? He froze, just for a second. Then he lowered his staff. I never got the chance, he said quietly. War ended. We scattered. I thought I'd never see her again. Zalaria stepped closer. And when you did? He looked at her now. Really looked. She was a queen, and you were there. Strong, proud. And I thought, maybe it was enough. Zalaria's voice dropped. Why didn't you tell me who you were? 'Cause you needed to choose who to be. Not be told, but I mocked you. I treated you like garbage. Riker gave a tired smile. You acted like a warrior. You fought for your place, respected. That. She looked down at her hands. I don't know what to feel. He stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. Then don't decide yet. Just keep training. That night, alarms rang through the palace. Red lights flashed. Sirens echoed through the halls. Zalaria ran out of her chamber, still in training clothes. What's happening? She shouted at the guards. Attack ships near the outer moons? One guard shouted. Unknown origin, no empire markings. She rushed to the control room. Her mother was already there, surrounded by advisors. Riker stood silently in the back, arms crossed, eyes cold. Report, Valera ordered. 2 ships, said the commander. Small, but fast. They breached the patrol line. No communication. They're not responding. Riker stepped forward. Pirates don't fly like that. They're scouts. Scouts, Valera turned to him. For an invasion. The room went quiet. Riker walked to the screen and tapped into the data. Ship design is modified Zalari tech. That's not foreign. It's domestic. Someone from inside. Zalaria narrowed her eyes. You're saying? A Zalari faction? Riker nodded. Not all were happy when the war with Earth ended. Some wanted total control. They may be planning a coup. Valera looked at him. How much time do we have? Days, maybe hours. They'll test our defenses, then hit hard. The Empress stood tall. Then we prepare. Riker turned to Zalaria. Hope you're ready for your first real battle. She gripped her staff. I am. The next day, the palace entered lockdown. The guards changed weapons. Shields were raised. The Empress's personal fleet was called home. Zalaria stood beside Riker in the war chamber. She looked at the map. How did you fight with such small numbers back on Earth? We didn't win with numbers, Riker said. We won with strategy. Be surprised. He pointed to a narrow pass between 2 moons.
Ups.
That's where they'll come through. It's where I would. Zalaria tilted her head. You think like them? I think like a soldier. She studied the path. Then we set a trap. He nodded. Bleed them before they reach the planet. And if they break through? Riker looked her in the eye. Then we fight on the ground. Together, she felt her chest tighten. It was the first time he had said we, hours later. The stars shimmered as dozens of unknown ships appeared. They didn't ask for peace. They didn't speak. They opened fire. The palace shields held strong, but only just. Riker took command of the defensive team. He moved fast, placing snipers on rooftops, setting traps in corridors. He moved like a man who had done this 1,000 times. Zalaria led a strike team through the tunnels, cutting off enemy landers. She was fast, fearless, and smart. The soldiers followed her without question in the heat of battle. Riker saw her fighting with a broken spear, her left arm bleeding, her eyes sharp. He smiled to himself. That's my daughter. By morning, the attack was broken. The enemy ships retreated. The Empress still lived. The palace still stood. But the message was clear. Someone powerful wanted the throne in the medical bay. Zalaria sat on a table while a nurse stitched her arm. Riker stood by the wall. You did good, he said. I was scared, she admitted. So was I. She looked at him, surprised. You're not supposed to be scared, she said. He chuckled. Being brave doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you fight anyway. She nodded slowly. Then, after a long silence, she said, "Do you want me to call you father?" He looked at her carefully. Then he smiled, a small, warm smile she hadn't seen before. "Only if you mean it." She paused, then said, "All right, father." Riker sat beside her quietly. "I should have been there sooner," he said, "but I'm here now." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad." In that moment, surrounded by wounds and war, a new bond was born, not through blood alone, but through battle, respect, and choice. The morning after the battle, the skies above Zelleria Prime were still filled with smoke. Burned enemy ships floated in orbit. Broken pieces of metal spun slowly through space. The Empress's palace had survived, but the war was not over. Princess Zelleria stood on the high wall of the palace, her arm in a sling, her gaze fixed on the stars. She had fought her first real battle, and she had bled. Beside her stood Marcus Riker, General of Earth, once a legend, now her father. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Zelleria said, "They'll come again." Riker nodded. "Yes, and next time, with more ships, more soldiers." That was just a test. Do we know who they are? Not yet, but we will. In the war chamber, Empress Valera sat at the round table with her top commanders. A large holomap floated above the center, showing the galaxy's star systems. Riker and Zelleria entered. Quietly, one general stood and pointed at the red dots on the map. "The attackers used Zelari technology, but we traced a few signal codes. They were erased, but not completely." Riker stepped closer. "Show me." The screen shifted, and a symbol appeared, a silver claw with 3 stars. Zelleria frowned. "That's House Korthon." Everyone in the room Ted's. House Korthon was one of the oldest noble families in the Empire. Rich, powerful, ambitious. They were exiled after the Earth War, Valera said coldly, for using forbidden weapons. "They've returned," Riker said, "and they want the throne." Valera stood. "Send spies. Find their base. I want to crush them before they rise." Riker looked at her. "You should leave the palace." Valera narrowed her eyes. "Are you suggesting I run?" "I'm saying they know where you are. If you die, the Empire breaks." Zelleria looked between them. "What if I stay instead? Let them come for me?" Riker turned sharply. "No, you're not bait. Not asking for permission," she said. Riker's voice was calm but firm. "You fought one battle. You're not ready to lead a war." Zelleria stepped forward. "Then teach me. Train me to command. Let me fight beside you." Everyone in the room watched in silence. Empress Valera said nothing for a long moment. Then she nodded. "It's time." The next week was filled with silence and fire. Marcus Riker became more than a trainer. He became her general. He taught her how to read star charts, how to lead fleets, how to make hard choices. No plan survives. "First contact with the enemy," he said once, "so always have 3. They trained in empty hangars, studied war history late into the night, flew simulators until their fingers bled, and slowly, day by day, Zelleria changed. She stopped thinking like a royal. She started thinking like a soldier. Then the message came. A spy ship returned from the outer belt with broken engines and 1 survivor. The pilot, half dead, carried a recording. Valera, Riker, and Zelleria gathered in the command room to view. It dot. The screen flickered, then showed a hidden base carved into a dark asteroid. A massive fleet was being built. There were hundreds of ships, all painted black and silver with the Korthon claw. Then the image shifted. A tall, pale Zelari man stepped into view. His eyes were red, and his face was cold. Zelleria gasped. "Lord Thoros." Riker frowned. "Who?" "He was one of my old tutors," Zelleria said. "He disappeared years ago." Valera's face darkened. "He was exiled with House Korthon." "I thought he was dead." On the screen, Thoros spoke. "We were betrayed. We survived. And now the weak shall fall. The Empire must be reborn in fire. Empress Valera will kneel or burn, and her half-blood daughter will die screaming." The message ended. Silence fell over the room. Riker stood slowly. Well, now it's personal. A war council was held. That evening, the palace was full of noise generals, captains, and diplomats all shouting plans, fears, and orders. But at the center of the room, Zalaria stood silently, waiting. When everyone quieted down, she stepped forward and said, "We hit them first." All eyes turned to her. "They think we're weak," she said. "They think we'll wait behind our shields, but we won't. We take the fight to them, hit their base, break their fleet before it grows." One noble laughed. "Shh." A child commands. "War now?" Riker stepped forward beside her. "She's more soldier than you'll ever be." The room went quiet. Empress Valera looked at her daughter, then nodded. "What do you need?" Zalaria looked to her father. He smiled. A fast fleet, a good plan, and a lot of explosives. The mission was simple. In theory, Zalaria and Riker would lead a small strike team to the asteroid base, while the rest of the Empire's fleet held the outer perimeter. Their job was to sneak inside and destroy the power core. It was suicide. But if it worked, the entire enemy fleet would go dark before it ever left the asteroid. Zalaria stood in the loading bay, wearing black armor, helmet under her arm. Riker walked up, checking his weapons. "You sure about this?" "Are you?" Gave her a look. "You've got your mother's fire, but you think like me. That's dangerous." She smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." They boarded the stealth cruiser together along with a dozen elite soldiers. No banners, no medals, just war. The asteroid base was massive, carved into the rock like a dark heart. Enemy ships floated nearby, their hulls glowing with energy. The stealth cruiser slipped past them in silence. Inside, the crew held their breath. Zalaria whispered, beginning drop. They landed on a hidden side of the asteroid. Riker led the way through old mining tunnels. The air was cold. The walls dripped with strange liquid. Shadows moved. Then the alarms sounded. "Run!" Riker shouted. Gunfire exploded in the tunnels. Enemy drones flew in from above. The team fought their way forward, step by bloody step. Zalaria fought like a storm fast, focused, deadly. Riker watched her with pride even as he reloaded. They reached the power core room. Zalaria placed the charges. 2 minutes, and the doors opened, and Lord Tharos stepped through. His armor gleamed. His eyes glowed red. "Well," he said. The little half-blood warrior. Zalaria stood tall. "I'm not little, and I'm not afraid." Sneered, "You're nothing. Your father was a weak ape from a dying world, and your mother betrayed her kind." Riker raised his gun. "Say that again." Tharos lunged. The fight was brutal. Blades, fists, and fire. Tharos was powerful, trained in dark energy. But Zalaria had trained under Marcus Riker. Together, father and daughter fought with perfect rhythm, and finally, Zalaria drove her blade into Tharos's chest. He gasped, eyes wide. She whispered, "I am the future." Then the core exploded. The cruiser escaped just in time. The asteroid burst into fire behind them. The enemy fleet shattered. The war was over, at least for now. In the medical bay, Riker lay with a bandaged arm. Zalaria sat beside him, bruised. But smiling. "You said I wasn't ready," she teased. "I was wrong," he said. "You're more ready than I ever was." She looked at him for a moment, then quietly said, "Thank you, Father." He smiled. "I'm proud of you, daughter." After the explosion that destroyed the asteroid base, the galaxy held its breath. The enemy fleet had been shattered. House Korthon had been defeated. But Empress Valera knew better. Wars did not end with just one victory. They went silent. They went deep. They waited. The Empress stood in her private garden, under the golden light of Zalaria Prime's twin suns. Tall crystal flowers swayed gently in the breeze. She was not alone. Marcus Riker stood beside her. Behind his back, dressed in a dark officer's uniform. His scars had not faded. Neither had his eyes. "They're calling her a hero," he said. "She earned it," Valera replied. "She's still young. She's more ready than we were at her age." Riker gave a soft laugh. I was never ready. I just pretended. Valera looked at him now. For years she had let alone. But here was the man who had once been her enemy, now standing as her daughter's protector and, maybe more. Do you regret staying? She asked. Riker turned to the sky. Earth is gone. My people are gone. Zalaria is all I have now. And me? He paused, then said, yes. You too. In the palace halls, Princess Zalaria walked beside her personal guard. Nobles and warriors bowed as she passed, but their respect was not for her crown. It was for her sword and for the battles she had survived. In the war chamber, she met with the new high command. General Silas, a stern Zelar with gray skin and black armor, stood at the center. He bowed to her. Princess, we've confirmed reports from the outer colonies. She leaned over the map. Trouble? Small attacks, bombings, sabotage, but coordinated. She nodded slowly. House Korthon may be gone, but their followers are still alive. Silas said, we believe another noble house is supporting them in secret. Which one? He hesitated. House Neural. Zalaria clenched her fist. They've always hated my mother. They say she made the Empire soft by loving a human. Illyria's jaw tightened. I want proof, she said, then we crush them. That night she sat in her chamber, looking at an old picture. It was a recording her as a baby in her mother's arms. Riker stood behind them, younger, smiling, his hand on Valera's shoulder. Back then, he hadn't known he was a father. Now, everything had changed. She touched the screen gently. There was a knock. Come in, she said. Marcus Riker entered. Dressed in civilian clothes? You're not wearing your armor, she said, surprised. Just for tonight, he replied. Thought maybe I could talk to you. Not as a soldier, but as your father. She smiled slightly. You always talk like a soldier. I've been one too long, he said, but I see what you're becoming, and I don't want to miss it. She put the picture down. Do you think I'll make a good queen someday? She asked. Riker didn't answer right away. Then he said, I think you'll make something new, something better. A warrior who leads with honor, not fear. She looked at him like you, chuckled. Hopefully smarter. They both laughed. Next morning, a secret message arrived. A captured enemy spy had requested to speak with the half-blood princess. Riker and Zalaria went to the cell together. Inside, a tall Zalari woman with pale gold eyes sat on the floor. Her wrists were bound, but her expression was calm. You are Zalaria, she said. I am, the princess replied. I served House Korthon, the prisoner said. But I was born in House Neural. Zalaria stepped closer. Are they planning something? The woman nodded. They are building a fleet in the Nabari Void. They want to strike when your mother is away. Riker crossed his arms. Why tell us? The prisoner looked at him. Because I believe in strength, and she is stronger than they are. She could unite the galaxy if you let her. War came again, not with a roar, but with a whisper. The Nabari Void, a dark region filled with magnetic storms and gas clouds, became the next battlefield. Zalaria led a scouting fleet with Riker at her side. The Empress stayed on Zalaria Prime to guard the capital. The young princess stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vengeance Star, staring into the swirling clouds of the void. We're deep in enemy space, her officer said. We might not make it back. Zalaria gave a small smile. Then we better win. Suddenly, alarms blared. Ships incoming. Dozens. Black ships flew out from the storm sleek. Fast. Deadly. The enemy had arrived. The battle was chaos. Lasers tore through. The darkness. Missiles screamed across the stars. Fighters exploded in fiery flashes. But Zalaria's commands were sharp, clean, confident. She moved her ships like chess pieces, using the storm clouds as cover. She baited the enemy, drew them into traps. Riker and his fighter led a flanking squad. He flew like a ghost, silent and fast, taking out engines and coms. Hours passed. Then came silence. The enemy fleet had fallen. Zalaria stood tall on the bridge, covered in smoke and sweat. We did it, her officer said. But Zelaria frowned. Too easy. Back on Zelaria Prime, Empress Valera stood in her throne room when the attack began. A hidden fleet had jumped from hyperspace House Neryl's true force. They had waited for Zelaria to leave. Now they struck. The sky turned red. Bombs fell on the city. Valera ordered her guards to protect the civilians. She fought herself, dressed in silver armor, blade in hand, but they were outnumbered. Then a message came through. This is the Vengeance Star, returning from the void, ready to engage. Zelaria had come back. The princess led the counterattack. Fleet entered the burning skies like a sword through smoke. She targeted the enemy command ships first. Her strikes were swift, merciless. On the ground, Riker landed with drop troops and cleared the palace gates. Inside, mother and daughter fought back to back, their blades moving in perfect sync. It was the first time all three Riker, Valera, and Zelaria had stood together as one family in battle, and the galaxy watched. When the battle ended, Zelaria stood on the palace steps. The people of Zelaria Prime gathered below. They cheered, not for her title, but for her courage, for her fire empress. Valera stepped forward, her crown shining. She raised her voice. I name my daughter not only as heir, but as protector of the Empire, a warrior for all species, Zelarian human. The crowd roared. Marcus Riker stood to the side, watching quietly. His daughter had become something greater than a soldier. She had become a symbol. That night, the family sat together for the first time with no war between them, just silence and peace. Zelaria looked at her mother and father. I used to make fun of him, she said softly, smiling at Riker. Called him a dirty old human with no grace. Riker raised an eyebrow, and now, you're still old, she teased. But I'm proud you're my father. Valera leaned close. He saved us all once, and now, so have you. Zelaria looked out the window to the stars. I wonder what Earth looked like. Riker nodded. I'll show you one day. The ruins are still out there, waiting. She looked at him, then we'll go together. The war was not over, even after House Korthon was destroyed. Even after House Neryl's fleet was defeated. Even after Princess Zelaria became a hero of the galaxy. A greater darkness still waited in the stars. It watched, it planned, and now it moved. It started with silence. One by one, deep space colonies lost contact. Trade routes vanished. Patrol ships never returned. In the council chamber on Zelaria Prime, Empress Valera stood before a star map that showed red zones spreading like blood across the galaxy. Her generals looked nervous. Zelaria stood beside her, wearing the black and gold armor of a royal commander. Marcus Riker, her father, leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching closely. A young officer stepped forward. Our scouts finally returned. They brought this. He placed a cube on the table. A hologram lit up. The image showed a dark, twisted world, a planet covered in metal and shadow. Floating above it were hundreds of ships, black as night, sharp like blades. And at the center, something bigger. A Titan. A world-sized machine. A living weapon. Everyone in the room went silent. Riker stepped forward. I've seen that before. Valera turned to him. What is it? Riker's voice dropped low. That's not from this galaxy. That's precursor tech. Ancient. Dangerous. Zelaria asked, what does it want? He looked at her. Extinction. The Dark Fleet was called the Obsidian Host. It did not send warnings. It did not ask for surrender. It came like a storm. It swallowed suns. It broke planets. It devoured entire civilizations in days, and it was coming straight for us. Zelaria Prime. The High Command met for the last time. Valera. Riker and Zelaria stood at the head of the table. The room was filled with leaders from across the star's humans, Zelaria and dozens of other species. Once enemies, now allies, Zelaria spoke. They don't care about bloodlines or borders. They don't want power. They want to end life. All life. She looked around the room. We can't run. We can't hide. So we fight. Not for thrones. Not for glory, but for survival, Valera added. This is our final stand. Win or vanish from the stars forever. Riker simply said, let's give them hell. The Allied fleets gathered near Zelaria Prime, hundreds of ships, thousands of fighters. Every weapon ever built was aimed at the dark sky. Zelaria led the fleet from her new flagship, the Dawnfire, a powerful battleship created by combining human and Zelaria tech. Riker stood at her side, wearing his old Earth armor, polished and ready. You sure about this? He asked her quietly. She nodded. We stand together. That's what you taught me, he smiled. Then, let's make history. The Obsidian host arrived like a nightmare. Their ships were silent, massive, and endless. Their leader was a thing of steel and shadow, the Prime Architect. It's a machine god from another time. It sent a message across all channels. Your mistakes, we are the correction. The old cycle ends. Zelaria responded simply. We are not mistakes. We are warriors, and we fight back. Then the battle began. The stars turned to fire. The Dawnfire led the charge, launching missiles and drones. Fighters danced between enemy beams, dodging death by inches. Riker led a drop assault on the surface of a captured moonbase, disabling enemy jammers. Zelaria commanded with focus and fury, shouting orders, adjusting formations, saving hundreds of lives with every decision, but the enemy was endless. Every ship destroyed was replaced by two more. The fleets began to break. We're losing ground, her officer shouted. Then came the message from Valera's ship. They've boarded us. I'll hold them off. Continue the fight. Zelaria live. The Empress's Grace, Valera's command ship, was under attack. Zelaria made a choice. She left the front and jumped into the heart of danger. With Riker at her side, she led a boarding team onto her mother's ship. They fought through burning halls, past enemy drones and machines, cutting down dozens. Inside the throne room, Valera stood alone, blood on her face, blade in hand. She was surrounded. But still standing, Zelaria rushed in and fought beside her. Riker joined, firing from behind. Together, Mother, father, and daughter fought their final battle side by side. They cleared the throne room. Valera collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. I'm not as fast as I used to be, she said. Zelaria knelt beside her. You're alive. That's enough. Riker looked out the window. The enemy Titan is charging a world-killer weapon. They have one shot. Zelaria turned to him. We fly into its core. It'll kill us. Not if we time it right. Valera looked at them. You'll need someone to guide the fleet. I'll stay. Zelaria froze. Mother. Valera touched her cheek. I've ruled long enough. Now lead. Fight for what we built. For what we lost? They embraced tightly. Then Zelaria and Riker left for one last mission. The Dawnfire flew into the heart of the Obsidian Titan. It dodged deadly beams and crushing claws. Racing through metal tunnels and glowing cores, Zelaria piloted. Riker prepared the charges. We plant them here, he said. Then get out, or die trying, she replied. He looked at her. I'm proud of you, he said. Always. She smiled with tears in her eyes. I used to think you were just some human. Weak, slow, strange. He chuckled. You were right. But now I know better, she whispered. You're my father. And the strongest man I've ever known. The charges were armed. The Dawnfire blasted out of the core at top speed. The Titan began to glow. Then it exploded. The shockwave knocked out most systems. Their ship spun out of control, crashing into an icy moon. For minutes, there was only silence. Then dash movement. Riker pulled himself out of the wreckage, coughing. Zelaria. She crawled out behind him, bleeding but smiling. We did it, she said. He looked up in the sky. The Obsidian fleet was breaking apart. Ships were exploding. The enemy was falling. The war was over. A week later on Zelaria Prime, a great ceremony was held. Flags flew, bells rang, people cried and sang. Empress Valera stepped down from the throne. Princess Zelaria stood before the people. The crowd chanted her name. She raised her hand. I am not just a princess. I am not just Zalari. I am a human too. I am a warrior. I am a leader. And I am your new empress. The crowd erupted. Beside her, Marcus Riker stood with quiet pride. She turned to him and placed a medal on his chest. For Earth, for Zalaria, for family, saluted. Then whispered, You'll be greater than both of us. She smiled. Only because of both of you. In the years to come, Zalaria led the Empire into a new age. Peace returned. New alliances were formed, and the story of the half-human warrior princess and her legendary human father became a tale passed across every world. A story of war, of unity, of legacy, and of love.